He is a well-known sportscaster who just developed into, I believe, one of the best that you will find from his work in DC. It is Chick Hernandez, and he is a star. We're going to go through his career, point out some of the
Oh
inspiring
boy.
moments of it, and obviously you can tell by what he's wearing. He loves golf. So we're going to get into that a little bit as well. I'm Bryan Fenley, an
Yeah.
anchor at Fox Sports Radio. Chick, it's an honor to have you, man. I certainly respect your work and what you've done over the years. I think what you've done is incredible, considering some of the challenges that you've had to overcome that you've been open about. But one of the things I wanted to ask you first was, what's a question that you've been dying to ask an athlete that you haven't been able to yet?
Um, that's a good question.
And
Well,
not to put you on the spot, but I thought,
yeah, yeah. Let me
thinking
let me
about
think on
all,
that. I'll come back to it, and I'm gonna have to
yeah,
write this down so I remember it. The hell. But I will say this: I've always wanted to ask Michael Jordan, um, how much money do you owe me? That's what I wanted. Uh, when he was a Washington Wizard, and I was doing sidelines for the games, I would, and he knew that I was a golf addict because I had
yeah,
come from working in Augusta, Georgia years prior. Actually, we have there's a interesting story. I should probably just tell it right now, shouldn't I?
yeah, that'd be
It's fun.
great.
All right. So I'm working in Augusta, Georgia at the CBS affiliate there, WRDW. I'm the sports director. And I knew what the Masters was because I watched it, but I didn't have the golf addiction that it would create. So I'm in Augusta, and Michael Jordan retires from the game, right? And I am on a golf course, public golf course in Augusta, when I get a call from the sales lady in our station. She says, "Chick," I'm like, "Yes, Debbie." She says, I got to tell you something. Like, what's that? She goes, and she's on maternity leave. And she
Okay.
says, "I do believe that Michael Jordan is playing my golf course right now." And I'm like, Debbie, come on. Is it just any tall black man? What are we talking about here? And she said, "Well, he looks like dark chocolate." And the way she said it, I was like, "All right, I got to go." And I called the station. I said, "Hey, get me a shooter. Meet me over at Westlake Country Club."
Wow.
Why? I I can't say right now, but just tell them meet me there. So I left my round of golf, went to Westlake, met my shooter, walked into the clubhouse, and I saw the pro there. And I said, "So I hear you got a guest. I'm going to throw it up, see what happens." And he says, "Well, yeah, he was here, but the neighborhood got wind of it, and all the kids are coming out." I said, "Uh huh. So you wouldn't mind if I just took a golf cart out on the course for a little bit?" And he's like, "Why don't you just go to the ninth hole?" Because he was lying to me. Michael hadn't left, but he knew timing wise that it would be a short period of time before Michael showed up. So here comes this figure walking over the fairway, on top of the hill. I knew the gate
Yeah.
immediately. It was MJ. I'm like, holy crap! And he's by himself. I'm like, okay, that's a private, very very private course. I just knew enough people that I could get in, right? So we're sitting behind the green. He chips up, puts out, and I say, "Excuse me, Michael, do you have a few minutes? I'd love to, talk to you." Microphone in hand, and he says the following: "I'm sorry, I'm on vacation." No, which I say, "I'm sorry, that's not vacation. You're retired." And he's like, "Yeah, that's what I meant." When he said that, by the way, I put that in the back of my Rolodex. Like, this dude's not done. He's coming back. There's no question in my mind. He's not even thinking about this as retirement, vacation. So fine. So he doesn't talk, which is fine. We were rolling the whole time. It's great. So that night on the air, I said, "Hey, by the way, I know nobody knows this. I'm the only one that does, but Michael Jordan was in town playing golf. Here he is playing the ninth hole at Westlake Country Club." I said, "In fact, listen into the conversation." And then I roll the conversation in which Michael Jordan apologizes to me by saying, "I'm sorry." So we come back to the clip and I say, "See, I got an apology from Michael Jordan. Interesting day here in Augusta." And we move on. Circle that now. We go back or forward a few years, and I'm at Fox 5 in DC. No, I'm actually at Comcast Sportsnet when we rebroadcast the Wizards games. Here comes Michael Jordan as a Wizard, and the first time I see him is for the sit down interviews, and we each get 5 minutes with the king. And I walk into this room and I'm like, "How you doing? My name's Chick Hernandez." And he looks at me and he says, "You said I apologize to you." I'm like, "Excuse me?" He goes, "In Augusta, Georgia." He had seen it that night. And I'm like, his
Wow.
brain works that way. I'm like, "Oh, crap." And I said, "Well, yes, I did. But I'm the only one who had you on tape, wasn't I?" He goes, "That's true." And we did our conversation. I said, "I'm a big golf guy. Let's go play golf one day." He's like, eh, maybe. And I asked almost every day. And I've still asked. I've got somebody that can get to him. And I'm like, "When are we playing? When are we playing? When are we playing?" And the only time I got close, or at least I got a modicum of respect out of him, was I was playing Shadow Creek in Vegas. And because I was out there to MC Tiger Woods Tiger Jam, I was doing the clinic for him. And sorry for rambling.
No, this is
Um,
great. I love this.
and so I get some guy sets up this round of golf for me. I'm going to be by myself at Shadow Creek. I'm like, "Oh, I'll play with somebody." "Yeah, just not a whole lot of play here, but we'll get limousine. Will pick you up at the hotel, bring you over." I'm like, "This is great." Show up, and I get a caddy, and the caddy says, "What do you do?" I said, "I'm a sportscaster." He goes, "Oh, where?" I said, "Washington D.C." He goes, "I'm MJ's caddy, right?" I'm like, "What?" He said, "I'm
Wow.
MJ's caddy when he comes here." I said, "Seriously?" He goes, "Oh yeah." I said, "All right, tell you what, let's roll tape on me hitting a putt, and then we'll just do it live." Uh, He's okay. So he rolled the tape, put my camera on it, rolled it, and then I made the putt, and he turns the camera on himself. He goes, "Hey, yo, M, Chick Hernandez, right? Uh, Dude can play. You ought to play him. He's woofing about you right now." And he sent it. Boom. And he called him and said, "All right, seriously, is he good or not?" And he goes, "No, dude's got a game. He's a 3 handicap. He's got game." And he's like, I can hear him hemming and hawing about it. It's like, and he's, I ain't got no time. I'm like, "Where is he?" He goes, "He's in Carolina right now, but he's willing to fly out tomorrow to play." I'm like, yeah, "Ain't not happening. Couldn't do it." Amazing.
I think it sounds like because of how competitive he is, he's intimidated by you. He doesn't want to lose to you on the golf course. I think
No,
that,
no, no. Look, yeah, he carries at least 50 grand in cash in his bag,
oh my
and
gosh.
the deal is he'll play you for whatever makes you nervous. That's his line. "What do you want to play for?" What makes you nervous? That's it. So it could be as little as, it could be a $20 bet. He doesn't care. Or, he's played for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Wow.
I'll tell you that one of my previous, I'm now married for a long time, but my girlfriend in Augusta, her father was a doctor in Birmingham, Michigan, and uh, he ended up going to Vegas, taking his family on a vacation to Vegas, and he got paired with MJ out of the blue, just because that's. And so they played around a golf, and they bet, and the doctor won the bet. He's like, "Michael, this is the greatest day of my golfing life. I can't believe I was paired with you, and to beat you was phenomenal." And Michael said, "I'll see you tomorrow." He goes, I'm taking my family back to Michigan tomorrow." He goes, "No, I'll see you tomorrow." And he's like, "No, I've got to go back." He goes, "No, no, I'll pay for your flight and your hotel stay. You're
Wow.
coming back tomorrow to play." And he did. He came back tomorrow and they played again, and he beat him again, by the way. But yeah, his competitive nature is legendary.
You spoke about your time during, what was it, the early 90s when you were in Augusta, and those were some of
Yeah,
your early starts as far as television, and you've been open about the rigors that came with
yeah.
you had to send a tape. This was your first opportunity, or one of the first opportunities for you that eventually led to where you are today. When you go back and you think about those experiences in Augusta, what stands out as far as what was challenging for you that you still think about to this day, and impacts the way you look at life and the way you carry yourself on the air?
Mm. There's a couple of things. My story's truly unique. Wanted to be on air, but was not prepared to be on air when they threw me on air.
Interesting.
And I was not I've been a class clown all my schooling years, right? From grade 1 through 12, I was the class clown. And I did stand up comedy, all that jazz. So I always found the humor in life. And I interned for a guy named Glenn Brenner here in DC, who was a legend. He was one of the funniest humans, and he brought not only the mail to the TV set, but he brought their girlfriends and their wives because they wanted to see what Glenn was going to do that night. So when I'm at the Ms. Lou Sports News Network as my really first TV job in cable, 1990, I'm a production assistant, and they're trying to get me to be on air because I'm talking the lingo with the anchors, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not ready for that. Let me do some reports first. I'll try
Yeah.
to cut this short. So they just throw me on the air basically one day. So you're going on the air, 2-hour shift. You know, have at it. And the person they heard in the newsroom, not the same person on the anchor desk. I was like, let's just be get on and get off. Let's
Yeah.
be solid. Let's not make a boneheaded move. But there was no humor whatsoever. There was no ad libbing. It was just like boom, 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 2-shot talk. Yep, let's get off. Boom, boom. That was it. And I did that there for 3 months, basically. I was just trying to be solid. And then the Augusta job opened up, and they brought me down for interview. And I was so young in the business, I didn't know what was going on. They just basically said, "Hey, come on in." I drove 10 hours in my red Geostorm to Augusta, Georgia.
Wow. Wow.
I came down, and it's 10 o'clock in the morning. I meet the news director, and she says, "Listen, I got the news team here and the weather guy. Why don't you guys go down to the set? If you don't mind, like write a, I don't know, 2-3 minute sportscast, and then we'll bring them down to the set, and we'll just kind of do just a run through." I've never done it in my life. I'm like, "Oh,
Wow.
okay. I don't want to write a 3-minute sportscast in Augusta." Okay. So I'm like looking at what the hell's going on. That's it, Georgia. So I got Braves, I got uh, Falcons. Let me write some stuff up. And for whatever reason, when I started writing, the other guy came back. The one that the previous employers had heard. I just thought, it's Augusta, Georgia. It's market 112. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Pardon my French.
No, you're
Just
fine.
just
Yeah.
let it loose. Just let it loose. To be who you're supposed to be. And so I
Wow.
wrote this sportscast, went down to the set. I met Rick Sykes, Patty Holshoe, and Bob Smith. Bob Smith had been the weather guy for 3 decades. And that's the first time I meet them, basically. And sit on the set, we're chatting a little bit, warming up. Okay, let's go. All right. And they do a little toss to me, and I do this 3-minute sportscast, at which at the end of the weather guys on off of his chair on the floor. He's laughing at something I've done, right? And I'm like looking over, and they're taking a 3-shot, and so I'm like, I don't even know the director. I said, "How do you take a 3-shot when the fourth guy's on the ground?" And they pan over, and there's Bob Smith on his side laughing, right? So blah blah blah, get done. And they're like, "All right, cool, that was cool, blah blah blah." And they meet the news director again. She goes, "All right, listen, that kind of went well, and we'll get back to you." Okay. I don't know any different. Okay. Drive back 10 hours. I was there. I stayed overnight.
Wow.
Drive back. And then I get a call like a week later and saying, "We want to offer you the job." I'm like, "This is unbelievable. Great. Awesome." I forget what I was making, but it was a mere pittance. But who cares? You're in the job. You got a
Yeah.
job. I drive down, get a place to stay, and boom. But as I'm driving into Augusta, I look up, and on the billboard is all 4 of us. And I'm like, "Holy crap.
Wow.
That's me." And then it dawns on me, there wasn't an audition. They had planned to hire me already. They wanted me on that set so they could make that billboard and do all
Ah.
their promos. I'm like, I didn't know that until after the fact. And then when I talked to the news director, he said, "Oh no, no, yeah, you were our guy from the get go. We wanted to get some you on tape and didn't want to say anything until we got it, So anyway, and what the funny part was that the tape they saw was me being straight laced. Then they saw this dude come out of the gate like blind, and they were like, "This is going to be a wild ride." And then we're literally a year and a half, 2 years later, one of the salespeople said, "Your contract's up, right?" "Yeah." "Well, just know that you're the most popular guy on our station right now, and your news anchor's
Wow.
been here for 3 decades. The weather guy's been here for 3 decades. You're one of the most popular people in our market. So when you negotiate your contract, just know that they'd like to keep you." I was like, "Okay, okay." So yeah, but Augusta, to answer your question,
Yeah.
and sorry for the long
No, I
drawn out
love
here,
the
but
storytelling.
Augusta was man of color in the South. First month death threats is what I
Yeah.
got. They called the TV station. I'd answer the phone because it's Market 112. You answer the phone call when it comes to your newsroom. "Hey, how you doing?" Is Chick Hernandez there? Yeah, you got him. How long are you going to be there? I get off there at 11:30. No, how long going to be in town? I just got here like a week ago. Well, I suggest that you leave sooner rather than later. I'm going to kill your black ass. Oh, okay. And I hang up the phone, and my news anchor, who's from Augusta, white dude from Augusta, he looks at me and sees my face, and he's like, "What's wrong?" I said, "Rick, I just got a death threat. Never happened in my life, ever." I said, "Because of the color of my skin, they want to kill me." And he looks at me, he goes, "I'm from here. My people are stupid. I get death threats. Don't worry about it." And he just kind of settled me down. And so the biggest challenge was getting over the fear of what I was, walking into. I knew that TV it's an idiot box. People will look at it, and if they like you, they forget everything
Yeah.
else. And so by the time I left Augusta, I could not go to dinner without being interrupted 10 times by people going, "Hey, I want you to meet my family," which was cool, but also like, "Can I just get this bite of spaghetti in now? Or what do you want me?" So it was, I became big fish in small pond, in a short period of time, which was great to then transition to DC, my hometown. Small fish, big pond. I didn't have to worry about that anymore. But yeah, so there was challenges there for sure.
What a 180 to see that you had those early struggles, and can't imagine the fear that you had to go through, and to try to even just that night go home or just think about stuff in ways in which your mind would take you after getting phone calls like that. But like you said, I'm so glad to hear that the the city adopted you and you became such a big deal. And then I wanted to get to the big move you made from Augusta to DC, because I know you did some stuff
Right.
at local TV before you went on to Comcast for a long time.
Hmm.
And I read a couple things about you, and you were like, I don't know, that's a big jump. And
Right.
you had people in your court that were like, hey, Chick, you need to really look into this. Like, you
Right.
have what it takes. So when you made that jump from Augusta to DC, what did they see in you? And at what point did you realize that like you could actually get this opportunity?
I don't know what they saw. Literally, a friend of mine called me, who I grew up with. Donna Mike was a big radio show in DC, and every Friday they would have Rudy Marchke on, who was at that point uh, wrote for USA Today. And Rudy was one of the first guys who like got behind the scenes of the business in TV, radio, print. He would like, "Hey, this is going on this week. This is doing this game, blah blah blah." And on Fridays, literally, his getaway question was, they would say, "What's your nugget this week? What's your nugget? What do you got? What's the inside intel?" And he goes, "Hey, I got something for you. Gus Johnson's leaving Fox 5 in Washington D.C., so that job's open." That's all he said. Buddy's listening here in D.C. Calls me in Augusta, goes, "Dude, this job's open in Fox 5 in Washington, D.C. Gus Johnson's leaving." I'm like, "Why are you calling me? You can get the job." I'm like, "I'm in market 112, dude. You're not making a jump to market 7." I said, "You remember, I grew up here. I know what that market is. I'm not making that jump right now." And I was kind of rude to him, and I hung up on him. And about half an hour later, I'm like, "Well, at least, dude, send a tape. Send a tape. Start to learn how to get critiqued and all that jazz." And I just got an agent through James Brown, one of my mentors. And so I sent a tape. I called my agent and said, "Hey, send a tape to Fox 5 in DC." Even my agent's like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yes, just send one." Okay. Sent it. And then my agent called me like, we're sending tapes. It's not a link. It's the tape. So it's like 5 days
Wow.
later.
Yeah.
"Dude, they want you." "Who wants me?" "Fox 5 wants you to be the sports director." "Wait a minute. Steve Buckhantz is the sports director." "You're right. They want you to be the weekend guy." "Okay, what are you talking about?" He goes, "Well, actually, they want to bring you for an interview." "Well, that's different than they want me, but okay. When?" "A couple of days." "Okay." So I come up, fly up, walk into the station. I know a bunch of the folks because I grew up in the area. And I went to college with one of the producers,
Oh,
unbeknownst to me. And so I walk in, I spend the day. Gus was there. Me and Gus talked a little bit. Gus was going on to do play by play. He was leaving. So, okay. So I hung out for the day. And then I went back to Augusta. I forget, driving back in a cab to the airport. And the cabbie says, "Hey, man, good luck. You never know this could be kind of cool. You coming home to work in front of your family and friends. I'm like, yeah, that would be amazing. And I go back, and then 4 or 5 days goes by, and then my agent calls and says, "You're the one." And I'm like, "You gotta be kidding me." And they said the only X factor is they want to hire you, and this is on a Thursday. Yeah, Thursday. They'd like you to anchor Sunday night.
And you're in Augusta.
I'm in Augusta. I'm like, okay. So I talked to my boss in Augusta, who had changed, the new news director.
Okay.
He didn't think I was going to get a job so quick, because I'd come to him and said, I'm starting to look. He's like, okay. And I said, I got a job. And he goes, when? I said, well, they want me there Sunday night. He goes, well, you don't work weekends here, so you could do Sunday night, but I need you back here. I'm like, um, okay. So I drove up. Buckhants went on 2 weeks vacation immediately. And I did Sunday night. It was a half-hour show, by the way, and made the rookie mistake. What I did was I told my mother that I'm coming up and I've got this job. So she was excited. I was going to stay with her. I didn't tell any of my friends. What I told my friends who had never seen me really work was, hey, Fox 5 is using a piece of mine from Augusta, Georgia. You'll see me on tape. Make sure you tune in. And so they're all like, cool, yeah. Well, I go on the set, and the news anchor, Morris Jones, goes, now the newest member of our sports team, Chick Hernandez, and rookie over here with his phone in his pocket, didn't turn the ringer off, and it just starts off the chain, because they're all texting and calling, going, you son of a gun, you've tricked us. I can't believe you're working at Fox 5. And anyway, I had like 71 texts when I got off the set. But yeah, I mean, who could figure out that I was going to do that? I literally sent the first tape I ever sent was to Augusta, and got that job.
Unbelievable.
And then the first tape I sent from Augusta was to Fox 5, and I got that job. And it's only just the vortex had come, and it's not like I'm some super talented dude. It's just that I was the right person at the right time, and people were looking out. Like my friend Sock, who called me and said, hey, this job's open. If he doesn't call me, who knows? I mean, seriously, that's the thing what kind of gives me goosebumps. If he doesn't call me,
yeah,
where am I? I'm in Augusta, Georgia. What happens to me? Do I eventually come to DC or not? I don't know. Do I go somewhere else? Who knows?
gosh, the craziness of life. And you brought up your mom, and we're talking with Chick Hernandez. I'm Bryan Fenley. She sort of had to play both roles,
Oh yeah.
father and mother, for you growing up.
Yep.
How did she help you with your work ethic and your drive and your persistence in wanting to make it in this field?
Well, she was, a white single mother from Annapolis, Maryland, who was raising this kid of color, this mixed kid, until I was 14. Then my sister came on board. Who's calling me? Make sure I turn this off here.
Sure.
All right, let me just make sure this is a
Oh, you're
spam
good.
call. Great. So she worked in a phone company forever, and it was a male-dominated arena. But she garnered respect, and later in life, when they were trying to weed out the women, they made them she was a telephone installer, but she put in the phone lines for the Kemper Open at TPC Avenel. But
Wow.
they started to make the women. They said everybody has to be able to climb a telephone pole, which was just out of the blue. Like, what? So she was very nervous about that. And she had taught me, because I'm a 5'6" quarterback in high school and junior college, not big, but I persevered, because she's like, well, I mean, how do you do what you need to do? I said, what's your suggestion? And she's always tell me, find some people in your corner, find somebody that can help, whether it's a coach or a teammate, whatever. So when she's, has this, I got to climb a telephone pole and do it for everybody at some point, she's like, I'm gonna have to quit. I'm like, what do you mean quit? And I said, what do you always tell me? Find somebody. Find somebody. There's enough people in there that support you. Find some guy, go off campus and learn how to climb a telephone pole. And so I was there the day she did it, when all the guys were like this, hands crossed, like, watch this. And then she went up the telephone pole and their mouths opened up. And I literally turned to a guy and said, "You can go ahead and close your mouth now. That's my mom. Good luck to you." I mean, I
Wow.
was, in her corner. So she taught me that. She taught me work ethic. I mean, she provided for me, like, as we said, she did both jobs, mother and father, which could not be more difficult than for a guy who is on the border of ADD and, class clown and, let's call you into school for this. I laugh. I tell the joke. People ask, where'd you go to high school? I said, Montgomery Blair High School, which in Silver Spring, Maryland, Montgomery Blair. That's actually rather famous. They've got Sly Stallone went there, Connie Chung, Goldie Hawn, Ben Stein, Carl Bernstein, and me. I'm the low man of the totem pole. But I said, I said, it's Blair. It's 313 East Wayne Avenue. How do you know the address of your high school? There was enough letters that came home from the principal that
Oh,
I
gosh.
I knew exactly what the address was. Um, so she was spectacular for me. She was a hippie growing up. She just and she taught me about racism because we faced it when we went out by ourselves together. She took her son out to go to Baskin Robbins. We faced it. People would say things, and I wasn't really paying attention hearing it when I was like, really young, but I distinctly remember the night when she literally, I got my ice cream, my double scoop of chocolate mint chip. I'm not big enough to put my eyes or my head over the counter, so I'm just standing like this, and I'm just looking away, and I hear the following conversation: "Put it in her hand. Put it in her hand." And I'm like, I look up, and it's my mother, who's telling the white lady behind the counter to put the change in the black customer's hand because she keeps dropping the change on the counter. And finally, the lady like put it in her hand, and my mom said, "See, it didn't rub off. Don't worry about it. What's the big deal?" And I'm again semi clueless until I come out of Baskin Robbins, and I'm sitting on the sidewalk, and the lady comes out and she hugs my mother, and she's tearful. And then I get in the car.
Oh,
I'm like, what happened? And my mom explained it to me. And again, that's when it dawned on me. I'm a kid of color. That's when it dawned on me. It's like, okay, wow. And I was like, this is going to happen to me. And she's like, probably. Like, okay, well, I know how to handle it now.
wow.
So, yeah, I mean, yeah, she was amazing. Left this earth way too early. Um, great grandmother to my three
Oh,
knuckleheads. But yeah, she definitely helped me, and it was great to come home and work in front of her because I could not get a big head. I could have a great day, have a great show, and get a phone call. What was that shirt and tie combination? What are you wearing? I'm like, is that all you saw, Mom? Is that what it was? You didn't see the whole joke about the blah blah blah? No. Yeah, great. Thanks.
she keeps you humble. Wow, what a story. And you certainly have taken what she's taught you and you're using it and channeling it today. You had said as well, Chick, that when you were 38, you had the opportunity to reunite and see your dad for
Oh
the
yeah,
first time. And
yeah. You
my
did your
question,
research, didn't you?
yeah, I did my research because I don't want to waste your time. And obviously I wanted to make sure I highlight you in the best way possible. So how did that meeting compare? So you had your preconceived thoughts on how that was
Hmm.
going to go.
Hmm.
And then you had how it actually went. What was the difference between those two things when you met your father?
I didn't have an expectation.
Okay.
I truly didn't. I didn't have one. I knew who he was because he was a very famous musician, and he knew who I was because I was a not so famous sportscaster. But we had mutual friends that kind of kept him abreast of what was going on with me. He was not a social media guy. He's from Cuba, was from Cuba, thick Cuban accent. You had to have a translator to talk to the dude. So I had no expectation other than I wanted to see him play the congas. And for those folks who don't know, my father was named Patato Valdez, and he basically invented what is the tunable conga drum now. Whatever any conga drum you see today, my father had a hand in making it tunable. So I've seen him on TV. And when I became a father, I looked him up. At least I was now paying attention to what he was doing, where he was performing in the country. And looking at videos of him playing. But I wanted to see him in person, or at least have a meeting.
Hmm.
And I got wind of that he was going to be at Blues Alley in Georgetown. And so I told my mother, and she goes, "Can I come?" And she's like, I said, "Yeah, well, yeah." They hadn't seen each other in forever, but it wasn't a bad parting. It was just like she got pregnant. He was not going to be a proper father because he was a musician who was traveling the earth, and she knew it. He knew it. So she said, "I got the kid. We're good, fine." So when I get when he's going to play at Blues Alley, I call him mom. She says, "Can I come?" Yes. Can I bring Jackie, which was her best friend back in high school, and they were together when she met my father.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, I hadn't seen Jackie in 20 years. I'm like, sure, whatever. So we're standing outside of Blues Alley in Georgetown, and I'm like, this is surreal. This doesn't make any sense to me. What's going on here? And we walked in. I sat about 15 feet from his drums, and I remember the band played first because my father was the headliner. So his band came out and played for like 45 minutes. And my mom kept asking me, "What are you going to do? Are you going to say something?" I said, "I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't. But let me just sit in this and watch." And then they introduced him, and he was behind us the entire time. I should have gone to the bar because he was at the bar the whole time. Now I'm 5'6". I'm a giant compared to what he was because he was 4'11". He was a tiny, tiny man. And he walks out, and my mom and Jackie look and go, "Oh my God, he looks so old. Maybe you shouldn't say anything to him because you might give him a heart attack." I'm like, "Guys, seriously, ease up a little bit." So we watched him play, and I could see through my mom and Jackie's reaction that they were a little concerned, and he was certainly a little slower in what they were
Hmm.
used to, which obviously was, he was at that point he was 70 something years old. Anyway, so I didn't have expectation. I just didn't know what it was going to be. At the end of it, I was like, Forget it. I'm going to go ahead and say something." And I went to get up, and there's a guy standing at his drums. This guy named Paul Hawkins, who was a DC conga drum player, who was the mutual friend who kept everybody up on each other. And I just go, "Yo, Paul." And Paul looks over and he sees me and he's like, "Oh my God, I know why you're here," because he knows I've never met my father. And I said, "Well, can you facilitate this meeting because that guy doesn't speak English and I don't speak Spanish." And so Paul turns to my father and goes, "Patato, tu hijo, your son." And he looks over at me, and it's like a comedy.
Wow.
All hell breaks loose. There's crying and there's hugging, and I'm literally left by myself. I'm just standing there like, "Hey, anybody want to?" I'm the guy who's gonna start it. No, no, okay, good. I watched, and they all hugged and cried, and finally my father turned to me, and he came over, and it was at that moment I realized how small he was, and I gave him a hug. I wasn't emotional about it. It was just kind of a cool thing. Then he introduced me to the band. We stayed for the second show. And then, he blew off the Boston Symphony the next day to come have dinner with us, the grandkids he'd ever met. And we had a phone relationship for 2 years through his agent, who became the translator for the most part. But I had no expectations. I was glad I did it. I was glad that I found my other half of me, and it was good to, we got a few pictures, and the kids, got a chance to see their grandfather, who they only met once, but at least they know from whence I came. So I didn't have expectations, and as we said, my mom raised me, so I didn't know what not having a father was like because I don't know what a father was. I saw it in my other friends, but I didn't miss it because my mom gave it to me. It's hard to explain, but I didn't have that male influence. But I didn't. She was. I didn't. I didn't. I wasn't lacking for that.
My final question for you, Chick, is even though you didn't have that male influence growing up, you are a father. And so you didn't get to see what it was like to be one
Mhm,
from your dad himself.
mhm.
So, how were you able to wade through that process and finally find that safe, special place where you know what to do and you were able to really channel that side of you, which you had never seen before?
It's interesting. I don't think I ever got it right. Um, to this day, I think my boys think of me and my daughter think of me as an odd human. I wasn't the most strict, um, but I did watch my friends' fathers, and I got into parenthood a little bit later than a lot of my friends. So I watched them as well. And then there's obviously the natural instinct of it all. And I married my high school sweetheart. So she was, she taught them how to study. And the great thing was that we had my mother for a good few years, and we had her father. So we had two grandparents, and her father never told a lie in his life. He was the most honest human. Worked for NASA and was an engineer, which my middle son is becoming an engineer. And so, and he was over the house every Thursday night for pizza night. So they got a chance, and I got a chance to watch him work as well. So I don't think I don't think I got it right. I just think that as a unit, me and the wife have raised them well. Yeah, it's an interesting question. I just felt like it was, my mom watched me. She watched, I think she even said kind of the same thing, was like, how do you do this when you didn't have one? A lot of folks don't have one, you just, you go, and I didn't read any books about it, but, and my wife was a valedictorian of her high school, straight laced, goody two shoes. That's not me. So, she taught them how to study, how to be honest, good people. I taught them how to to check the boundaries, step over the line a few times, learn what's fun for you, what makes you smile, what makes you laugh, um, and that's how we do it. So I just literally, I don't know. I just I think any parent, if they were the only parents on the face of the earth, they'd figure it out. You know what I'm saying? If you didn't have any frame of reference,
Yeah.
you'd still figure it out, and that's what I did. I figured it out, just by watching. Same thing with this business. I watched legends, George Michael, Glenn Brenner, James Brown, in my hometown. I watched them, and when I became an intern, I say this when I talk to prospective broadcasters, or to a college. My internship was the most important thing, because it taught me,
Yeah.
right. It taught me, one, that I wanted to do it, and then it showed me, two, that I could do it. Now I'll say this: I never tell them this. I knew that I could do it before I ever got there. I had watched enough. And that's why those folks at Ms. Lou Sports News Network made me put me from production assistant to on air, because they heard the way I was talking with the fellow talent, even though I was not on their level. And that came from sheer me just paying attention and knowing what was supposed to go where, and how this phrase is turned, and blah blah blah. Um, so, I it, it it just it's all come relatively naturally, which also can be a detriment, where you don't work as hard. And I'm certainly guilty of that. When I made it, I don't think I worked nearly as hard, but I also didn't want to, like, some folks get in the business and they want to keep doing this,
Hmm. They never
you
appreciate
know,
where they are.
they wanted to go keep jumping. I had two opportunities at ESPN that I turned down because the offers were heinous. And everybody's like, "Oh, how can you do that? How can you turn them down?" I'm like, I'm happy here. I'm king of the town. Not really, but I'm like, I can go play free golf anywhere I want. I've got my two babysitters and my grandparents, their kids' grandparents here. Why would I want to leave and go live in frickin' Connecticut, where it's cold and crap? So, I've led a charmed life, and now we're in interesting times here, because I don't have a network, but I'm doing a lot of different things. Um, and yeah, interesting times. I'm auditioning for different things, and the next few years is going to be, I hope, a lot of fun.
Oh, I think they are. I see, obviously doing golf. I see you doing college basketball, and I can't wait to when we get things a little bit back to a level of
Oh boy.
normalcy that I'm going to see more of Chick Hernandez on my television because of all that you've done, all the talent you have, and I'm rooting on you from a distance. Even though you're on the East Coast, I'm on the West Coast. Chick Hernandez, really appreciate you. Very accomplished sportscaster. I'm Bryan Fenley, an anchor at Fox Sports Radio. This has really been a blast, sort of touring through your life, and I look forward to seeing what's next when that moment comes. I know you deserve it. You are going to knock it out of the park when that opportunity comes in the business. You have put so much work into it and have such a unique skill set. Thanks so much for doing this.
I'm sorry for rambling, but I appreciate the time. Great questions, and you made it easy, which is the key to any interview. Simple as that.